here. Yeah, see this from yesterday. Here, look, that would have been the T1 term. Yeah, so this was the B plus C is equal to 0, and then this was the other one. Do you follow now? Yeah. Okay. In your notes, that's this step here. You need to go back to that step on this so that we have it, that you can look back on it in Schoology. Okay, so simultaneous equations are two linear equations which cross one another at a certain point, and we call that point a point of intersection. Okay, and we're going to use this a lot when we look at coordinate geometry. So we're going to use this a lot when we look at coordinate geometry, and we'll do more practice on it, and it'll be a little bit more difficult for coordinate geometry, but it's not bad. Okay, in order to find the point of intersection, we need to get rid of one of our variables, which is either a variable, in this case is either B or C. Okay, and B and C, why we call them variables is they can be replaced by numbers, and the numbers that they can be replaced by, they can vary. Okay. We do this by manipulating the linear equation. So we multiply the equation by a number and then adding or subtracting the columns. So when I talk about columns, that's like old school addition and subtraction that you would have learned in primary school. Okay, so guys, just jump in, anyone here, like jump in if you're not sure about what I'm doing. Okay, so what the instructions say here is that we can do this by manipulating the linear equation. And when we say manipulate, so I want you to think about if you were baking, if you're cooking, and you have a recipe. So let's say we're baking buns. You have a recipe, and the recipe is for 12 buns, but you want to make 24. What would you do with the recipe? Yeah, go ahead, whoever unmuted their mic there, go double it. Yeah, you double it, right? Everybody is okay with that. So we'd multiply it by 2, and that we know then that would give us 24 buns. Similarly, if I wanted to only have 6 buns, I would half the recipe. Linear equations, or manipulating equations, is very similar. So that if we want to manipulate these, I just can multiply them by a number, but I have to multiply the whole line. Okay, so these two linear equations here are from yesterday, from what we found. So what I'm going to do here is, you can either go with cancelling the B's, so we need to either cancel the B's or we need to cancel the C's. Okay, I'm going to go with cancelling the B's for the minute. So if I want to, you can take this down. Get rid of, yes, that was, I had that up on Schoology yesterday. So Ramal, if you want to just take a screenshot of it, and then just, you can leave a bit of a gap and fill it in afterwards. Okay, so if I want to get rid of the B's, then what I can do here, can anyone tell me what could I multiply this line by, that I would get a number in front of this B that when I subtract it from above, I'll get 0? Two. Yeah, very good, Holly. So what I'm going to do, I want to get rid of so if I want to get rid of the B's, put a little less in there, then I can multiply the second equation by, and I'm going to multiply it by -2. Okay, and the reason I'm going to do that is then it just makes it simpler to just I can just add each column instead. All right, so when I do that, so I'm just going to pop that up here. I always do this, I say multiply by, and put a little star, -2. So I'm going to just write out the first line. So I have 2B plus C equals to 1. And then in my second line, so minus 2 by b gives me minus 2b. And I always multiply the whole of the line. So minus 2 by b gives me minus 2b. Minus 2 by c gives me minus 2c. And minus 2 by 0 just gives me 0. Now we're going to do a little bit of old school adding, okay? Adding or subtracting. So you remember this from, you know, when you were in school and you had to do, let's say for example, 5 plus 4, and you'd put your line underneath like that and you'd say 9. So we're just going to do a little bit of that. So I'm going to use a highlighter here so you can look at the columns that I'm working with. So the first column, 2b minus 2b. What do I get from that? 0. Very good. Yeah, 0. So 0 goes there. Perfect. Let's look at our next column. So I have plus c minus 2c. So 1c minus 2c gives me minus 1c. So if anyone's unsure of that, yeah, or minus c. I actually prefer minus c, but we can leave it for a second. So minus 1c. And then the final part here, I have 1 and 0, which is just going to give me 1. Now, if minus 1c equals to 1, then c is equal to minus 1. And all I did there is just divide both sides by... minus 1. So I have a c value now. Okay, any questions, ask me. If I've lost you, where have I lost you? And guys, just for, I suppose, a little bit of speed here, it'd be great if you could just unmute your mic and ask. Okay, so if I haven't got anyone, then Oh, very good, Sabina. So the reason I multiplied the second equation, I want to cancel either the b's or the c's, okay? So you could instead here multiply one of these equations by minus 1, and that would get rid of the c's, and you'd solve for the b's. But I just wanted to multiply the second equation by minus 2 so that I get rid of the b's and I could solve for the c. Yeah. Oh, okay, do you know what? I'll just write it in here, just so that, just as a little bit of a recap. Okay, so how I get minus 1, come on. I divide both sides by minus 1, and then that will give me c is equal to minus 1, okay? Because, yeah, minus 1 over minus 1 just gives me 1, and then 1 over minus 1 gives me minus 1. Okay, Jemima, so do you know where I got this from? These two equations. No, okay, from yesterday's work. Can you just have a quick look back over yesterday's work? The notes I did yesterday. It'll be really quicker, Jemima, if you just unmute your mic. Okay, so now you know where we get these, where I've gotten these two. Okay, what I need to find out is, in this I need to find out what's B and what is C. Okay, so what I'm doing here, in order to find the point where these two cross over, that'll tell me what B and C are in each of them. Okay, we need to get rid of one of the variables because I can't solve, I have two unknowns and one little bit of information, and that won't work. I need to have at least 2 bits of information to solve these. Okay, we have to get rid of one of the variables, by manipulating one of these equations. And what we do this by manipulating the linear equation or multiply the equation by a number. All right. So in this case, what I had said was I want to get rid of the b's. Okay, I could have gotten rid of the c's, and hopefully if I have time, I'll show you an example of where I would get rid of the c's, but I'm going to get rid of the b's instead. So in order for me to get rid of this b, what I did was I multiplied this whole line by -2, because I can't just multiply one term in the line. I have to multiply. It's like the recipe. For making buns, I don't increase the amount of flour to get more buns. I increase all of the ingredients. Okay, otherwise my recipe won't work. So I multiply -2 by the whole of this line, so that when I get down to here, okay, and all I did here was I just rewrote out this top line, and then my new line, which is this line, multiplied by -2. What I did then is I have 2b minus 2b, that gives me 0, and that's exactly what I wanted. Now, all I need to do then is I need to just look at, I have plus c minus 2c, that gives me minus 1c. You can pop them into your calculator, so plus 1 minus 1, or minus 2. And then I have 1 plus 0, because there's no sign in front of that, so we can say that's a plus, and that gave me 1. I have minus 1c is equal to 1. And because I just want c, positive c, I divide both sides by the number in front of the c. This comes from yesterday's work. So, okay. Okay, is there any other questions on that? And like I said, it'd be way quicker if you could just unmute your mic. Okay, I'm taking it that everybody. Okay, Holly, perfect. So now I figured out what c is. C is -1. So our last step here is substitute. So I'll just put another a b here. This is the a part. This is the b part. Substitute back into an original equation. So what do I mean by that? So we're not going to look at the equation that I manipulated. So EQN is just equation. Not going to look at the equation I manipulated. I'm going to look at one of these two. Okay. So I'm just going to take the top one. I always tend to take the top one. I could take the second one. It makes no difference. So let me just take the top one. So I have 2b. Now I have plus, and instead of c I have -1 equals to 1. Just going to zoom out on this a little bit so that I can have some room. Okay, so then I have 2b -1 equals 1. All right. Now, again, you can either use your balancing method or you can just bring your loop across. So bring my -1 across to the far side. That's going to give me 2b equals 2. Now, when I bring that across, just so you know, that becomes +1. Okay. It's the same as subtracting or adding 1 to both sides to get rid of them, okay, to balance the equation. So I get 2b is equal to 2, and to find b by itself, I divide both sides by 2, and that will give me b equals 1. That step, and go back right that you did find difficult, and I'll record this as well so you can look back over it. So the first part was probably very easy. The first 4 terms of a quadratic equation is 4, 5, 8 and 13. Fill in the first and second differences. So we obviously have 1, we have 3 and we have 5. That gives me a difference of 2 every time. Now the next part said, given that the second difference equals 2a, find the value of a. Now, did I give you a step on trying to find the value of a? Yeah, very good. So what you needed to do is said was that a is equal to the second difference all over 2. And our second difference here is 2 over 2, which is equal to 1. Does everybody understand where I got that from? Yeah, okay, perfect. If there's anyone who doesn't, type in if you don't, or unmute your mic, it'd be just quicker. Okay, fabulous. So, letting T1 equal to 4, because that's obviously our first term, 4, alright? And even here, I would just remind yourself of the sequence itself. So it's up the top here. an squared plus bn plus c. So they've kind of skipped on a section, alright? So where I would normally put in my a and let it equal to 4, and then on my next line I'd substitute all my n values for 1, they just straight away skip that step. So in this here, this box, if you can look up here, would be a. Okay, they've already put n in for 1, and they've put 1 in for n, and they've put 1 in for n here as well. And they've let it equal to 4 because 4 is the first term. So what's missing in this box here is 1. Now, multiplying that, I get 1 by 1 is 1, and 1 squared is 1. And then what they wanted you to do here was that they wanted you to remember that this needs to come over the far side. Obviously, if it comes over the far side, it becomes minus 1. So 4 minus 1 is 3. Any questions on that? Okay. The next one. So it says then, letting T2 equal to 5, copy and complete the following. So again, we know that our A is 1. That doesn't change. And what you see here is that now instead of n up here, they've replaced n by 2. And they've let it equal to 5. Why have they let it equal to 5? Well, 5 is our second term of the sequence. Don't panic about these, guys. When you do like 2 or 3 of them, they'll start to become a little bit clearer. You'll start to notice things. I don't expect, when you're sitting in class like this, I don't expect every single thing to go into your head in the first time. All right. I just expect you to try your best when you're doing homework to follow the steps that I give. Okay, that's why they're there. Okay, the next one then. So the next line of this, all you've to do, they've done the 2b part, and you just need to do this part here. So I got 1 by 2 is 2. 2 squared is going to be 4. And then I am going to take that 4. So I'm just going to put a little loop around it. Bring it over the far side. Gives me minus 4. Or do your balancing method. So subtract 4 from the left hand side. Subtract 4 from the right hand side. It's the same thing. And what I get is 5 minus 4 gives me 1. Okay. Any questions so far? Where did I get the 1? Are you talking about this one, Florence? This one? Here. This one here. Okay, that's from A. So if you look here, what they've done here is they have substituted into this equation up the very top. So I have found A is equal to 1. And when you come down, so let's just say the first line because it's the same one. When you come down to this, that's A. So I'm replacing A by 1. They've replaced all the n's in the equation by 1 because 1 is the first term. And they've let the whole thing equal to 4 because 4 is the first of the sequence. Is that okay? Okay, perfect. Any other questions on that? No. Okay. So, what I'm going to get you to do then for this afternoon's homework, I'm going to have to, what day is tomorrow? Is Wednesday, and I don't actually, you're not in school tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a video. So for homework, tonight's homework, I'll have to just record a video on this. So what I'll do is I'll take these two linear equations that we've just done here. So what Miss Heavey